Good morning. It's Thursday, June 18th, 2026. Early morning. You may be able to hear birds in the background. And today's topic is a topic that touched my heart. It's the topic of forgiveness. Now, I heard something recently said, forgiveness doesn't mean amnesia. And I was very lucky. You know, my dad wasn't a good guy, and my mom forgave him and moved on with her life. And that was a massive example for me. And then my little sister's dad, the same. And before she passed, it was pretty cool to see that she had let go of that resentment and that anger. And, you know, I've had some anger in my life, resentment in my life. I've shared with you guys about, you know, grandma raised me while single mom worked. And I had a lot of resentment towards my grandmother. But I remember when I released a lot of it, I was about 30 years old at the time. And probably about 98 to 99%. And then that last little bit took a few more years. But that process is so freeing. And to be able to have that resentment actually transform into gratitude is so empowering. Now I can tell you I'm grateful to have been her grandson. And I'm grateful for the way she was. And I've got some big news for you. Breaking news, none of us are perfect. And as I've gotten older, I've had the opportunity to see things from her point of view. What it must have been like in 1930. And when her parents died within a year of each other. And when she went from a teen with not a care in the world to a depressed world, you know, the depression, married off to a man that she really didn't love, but that was what was expected of her, having kids, not being able to feed them. She put them in a boys' home, and she would visit them on the weekends so she could make sure they had a roof over their head and food on their plate. And, you know, just to be able to put myself in her shoes and feel what that must have been like for her as an early 20s, late 20s, early 30s mother back at that time. And how that, you know, she didn't have Oprah. She didn't have, you know, hundreds of books by psychologists and psychotherapists and counselors. I don't know how many I've read, how many seminars I've been to on relationships and communications, and learning how to listen, learning how to get that other person's point of view, and not being so stuck in my own rightness. I'm right. I must be right. And if you had known me as a young man, you would know that I was always right. And I was determined to be right. And I was determined to convince you that I was right. And so people who grew up with me would describe me as somebody who was either oblivious or a jerk, inconsiderate. And all of these labels fit. But by the grace of God, I've been able to see that and to open my eyes one day at a time, just doing some work on myself, reading a little bit every day. I've talked about 12-step program. I've talked about landmark education. I've talked about the hundreds of books I've read. And I didn't really I listened to Tony Robbins quite a bit, Dr. Dennis Waitley, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Napoleon Hill, Dale Carnegie. Heck, I read Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, more than 7 times because I didn't want to be a guy that just said I read 700 books. I actually wanted it to transform me. So I would read slowly a little bit every day. And this process of forgiveness is so freeing. Now, that doesn't mean you forget. That doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It doesn't mean you don't stand your ground if somebody's harming you or somebody is infringing on your freedoms and on your rights. And for those of you that have watched, you know, some or all of my videos, This is a topic I touch on frequently. And, some might call some of the things I talk about conspiracy theories, but are they really conspiracy theories when the vast majority of them turn out to have truth? And I've even shared with you the science of truth. I tell you, don't believe me. Read Dr. David R. Hawkins' books, learn the science of truth, measure and calibrate the level of truth for yourself. And that's how you know what somebody's intentions are. If they're trying to push something on you, then they have some kind of agenda. And a lot of times it's just people being human, people being imperfect, people being selfish, self-centered, self-absorbed, arrogant, thinking they know what's best. But sometimes there's even more behind that. But when someone, and that's why I say the things I say and do the things I do, use the word choices I use, the intonation, the inflection and cadence I do, but I give you the freedom. I want you to have the freedom because that's what I want, the freedom to choose. And that's what I suggest you ask yourself as you go throughout your day. If vaccines are so great, why is my baby being forced to have vaccines the first day of life? Why is it being forced? If enriched wheat flour is so great, why can't I find any bread without it? These are the things I ask you to ask yourself. If this is so good for me, why don't I have freedom to choose? And that's all I'm attempting to give people, is the freedom to choose, the freedom to decide for yourself. Why would I want central bank digital currency? Why would I want to be limited to living in a city where I can only travel 15 minutes? Why would I not want a vehicle so that I don't have the freedom to go somewhere when I want to? And of course, those same questions apply to you. So as you ask yourself, why would I want only the news media to give me the information that they deem is pertinent and important? That makes no sense to me at all. And I'm so grateful to see that the news media from both sides are losing their viewers as their viewers die from old age, from illness, from vaccine injury. There's over 4,000 peer-reviewed studies showing the damage that the COVID vaccines have done to people's bodies. Some of which actually show that certain batches were totally benign, and other batches have SV40, which is something that the government used and scientists used to give rats cancer. So it's not a carcinogen, it is a cancer-giving agent so that they could then study the cancer. So just ask yourself, are you willing to forgive? Are you willing to heal? Do you want to heal? Take the weight off. Take the backpack that you're wearing off, that you may not even know you're wearing, of resentment, of anger, of pride, thinking that you're right. I have to do that one quite often because there's always something more to see. There's always something more to discover. And when we have this attitude of seeking or seekingness, really anything is possible. And I believe there was a dude commonly called Jesus that said that. Through him, all things are possible. So that's where I'll leave you. And if you're still with me on this beautiful late June day, just as the summer's about to start here in North America, I just want to say thank you. And I want you to know how much I appreciate you. And you're always welcome back anytime. God bless.